to talk about today is challenges we face with having a visual condition that a lot of people have heard of. And for a long time, I understand, Mercedes, that you struggled in school.
Yes, very much so.
Could you tell us what that like in the beginning? What were the hardships that you faced?
I remember, like, when I was in second grade, my mom was always coming in, and that they actually wanted to hold me back again, and I had already been held back in kindergarten, and I had gone back to preschool for half the year, and then went back to kindergarten again, and so my mom wouldn't let them hold me back in second grade just because they were holding me back for I can't read, and maybe she's just not mature enough, maybe she's faking it. They kept telling me, "Are you faking it?" And I'm like, what am I supposed to be faking? I'm not doing anything. I'm doing what you're telling me to do. I'm reading what's there, except they kept telling me it wasn't what was there.
Could you describe what it was like trying to read?
Sucky. I just tried not to do it in class when they'd tell me to read a book. It got to the point where I got really good at fake reading.
Describe what it literally looked like when you were trying to concentrate on letters on a printed page.
A few times I remember, like, when I'd notice it, I can't really describe it because it was just what I saw, but I would realize that, like, the words would separate, and I thought that just happened to everyone. The words separated and then layered themselves, and I would take my finger and I'd push on my eye until the letters decided to go back into one. And, like, my mom had seen me doing that a few times, just pushing on my eye, just to try to make, because the letters would become a jumble. I mean, can you imagine? So these are letters, and now they're layered on top of each other, and they're in every single space of the lines, and they're just a big old black mess, and just like a string of yarn just spread everywhere, and you can't make anything out.
So as a mother, Abby, what was this like going on, hearing about the school performance?
She was very bright, very smart, understood concepts, spoke at like 7 months. And so it was really strange that she couldn't understand letters and written language because she understood verbal language very precisely. Mm-hmm. And she had a very big vocabulary even at 2. And so when teachers would tell me she wasn't reading, she wasn't cooperating, it didn't make sense. And then she would come home and say things like things disappeared, or she would always say, "It makes no sense." And I was like, what makes no sense? I mean, MOM is always going to say mom. It doesn't change. It doesn't, those 3 letters, it'd be like 1, 2, 3. It's always 1, 2, 3. And she's like, but it's not. And we'd always get into these huge arguments. And I didn't know that what she was explaining was real.
And what was the attitude of, like, teachers and folks from the school? What was the attitude that they gave you about her performance?
Every year that I would go in and try to explain her situation or what she would tell me, she's like, "Oh, it's okay. We have strategies. They'll teach her how to read. I have my master's. I have 26, 27, 28 years experience. I've been teaching a long time. I know what I'm doing." Just kind of making it sound like I didn't know what I was talking about. She didn't know what she was talking about. Right. They were the masters of teaching because they had their masters and all these years experience, and yet every year she moved a grade up, I would try to explain to the teachers early on, these are her issues, and then by December, January, they'd be like, we don't know what to do. We've tried everything. She's not cooperating with us. She's just stubborn. She's being lazy. She doesn't want to work hard. And yet she'd come home with a 15-minute assignment and she'd spend 4 hours trying to finish it. So it never made sense that she would sit there for 4 hours trying to do her homework when other kids would spend 2, finish, and go play. And so it was very frustrating just hearing and believing the teachers when they would tell me it was an act. Mm-hmm. Because to me and to Mercedes, they were the professionals, they were the adults, they were in charge of their classrooms. So I put a lot of credit and faith into them knowing what they were talking about, and would kind of discredit my experience with her and my knowledge of who she really was at home. And it was really hard just trying to discipline her accordingly, because they knew what they were talking about. When I started noticing was, I think she was about 5, and she would bring home flashcards with either letters or words, and I had a 2.5-year-old, and he could read them and she couldn't, and she would flip out. I mean, just get him out of the room. How dare you say the word? I was trying. And so, and he was, I mean, still a baby, and so he would say, Janice, it says there, just say there. And I'm like, just tell me the word. And he'd be in the corner playing with his toes or whatever, and he could see it and he could read it, and she still couldn't read it. She was 5. And then he's 5 and he's reading, and she's still doing flashcards, and she still can't read those flashcards, even just ABC letters. And then, so now I have another 2.5-year-old, and he's starting to read and say the alphabet when prompted with flashcards, and she still can't do it, and she's 7. And 2nd grade, and the teachers are still telling me she's just being defiant, she's too smart not to know, she just doesn't want to try hard, she's just acting. And then that's when at about 9.5, 10, we're walking, and she stops me and she says, well, that's dumb. And I said, well, what's dumb? And she said, why would somebody put a post sign on a post? You obviously see the post. And I was looking at a stop sign, and she's seeing a post sign, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how do we teach a child to read who isn't seeing the letters that we're seeing in the order that we're seeing them? How do you stop that? How do you stop that, and how do you teach her to see what's everybody else is seeing? And so that's when I went to the school district, and I said, either you test her or we're going to test her. And so we went ahead and privately tested her, and they told me that they couldn't use outside results, that they had to test her too. So then we had to wait for them to test her, and the psychologist said that it was the biggest deficit she had ever seen, from her IQ to where her reading level was, because she was by that time in 4th grade, and she was still reading at a kindergarten level, early kindergarten level.
Really early. I remember we had reading cards so we take tests, and that would tell us what our grade points were, what we could check out books at. And mine was through .03, which is kindergarten 3rd month, and .05, which is kindergarten 5th month. That's where I was.
So, at what point did you guys decide to seek even more help? And at what point did you guys arrive that it was something visual that you needed to see, like an eye doctor?
They kept asking us if she had had her vision tested, and she at that point had probably 5 vision tests at a optometrist.
Okay.
When we had her tested for dyslexia, we went through Children's Village, and they didn't say that it could be a visual issue or that it could even be helped. They just said she's dyslexic. There's, different programs out there. Kind of research it yourself. They just kind of cut us off and didn't really give us any information. And they had put her in special ed at school, and so I thought, finally she's going to get the help she needs, the one-on-one. The strategies that they were always promising were going to fix her, and and things weren't getting better. And even her special ed teachers would tell us, she's really smart, she doesn't belong in here, but she can't spell, she can't read, she can't really see the words that are there. And so we had her vision tested again, and again they recommended she go to Dr. Winters, and so then it was about a year after her dyslexic, maybe 2, It was about 2 because she was in 6th grade. So we got her in to see Dr. Winters, and they told us that she had the vision perception of looking through a straw, that her eyes were functioning at a 0.06% of normal. And they asked us how often she had been in the emergency room, if she had ever broken any bones, how many serious accidents she had had.
They were surprised I could walk. They were literally saying, "How are you walking?" Because I had a paradigm shift and had no periphery, which pretty much means I was walking into the road constantly, which I was. My mom was constantly grabbing me, dragging me out, and screaming her head off at me, and I'm like, what did I do?
Yeah, we stopped taking walks on the streets with cars because it was just dangerous. But so it was just, but what, like at home, what we would notice was she'd always spill her drinks, always. I mean, she was 10 and still using covered sippy cups because otherwise it'd end up all over the place. She couldn't walk home on her own. She hated sports, refused to do anything with moving objects.
And they couldn't understand that. They would always say, "Why won't you do it? Like, it's fun." And I'm like, "No, it's not." Because I see my brothers catching a ball or running and staying on their feet. And it just made no sense how they could do that. And yeah.
So then you started probably going into vision therapy and getting into those kind of activities. What was that like?
It was really cool, and like they had told me that, like, so I went in and they told me that I had built up all of these solutions for myself, like compensations, and they were going to tear those all down, and that was incredibly painful.
It was a challenge.
Yeah.
It was a challenge.
No, it hurt like they were stabbing a knife in my eyes.
It literally hurt because the muscles weren't used to it yet.
And then a lot of things of vision therapy hurt, but now I can see.
So by this time she's in 6th grade. She's failed at learning to read. She's failed at learning her ABCs in print. She's failed at being able to spell. She's failed at all these things that they're trying to constantly teach her, remedial, easy, kindergarten, things that kids normally pick up.
I couldn't even move my eyes.
And so she didn't want to try vision therapy. She had a fit and she was like, "Mom, it's just one more thing I'm not going to be successful at. It's just another thing I'm just going to fail. Why are you making me do this?" And I thought, we're trying things. I mean, we got to see what we can do. And
I didn't
so we
believe
started,
them when they told me something was wrong. I just am like, no.
because that's how she had always
Because
seen.
they're like, "Oh, you have all of this stuff." No, I don't. I see the same as everybody else. Like, what are you telling me?
And so the first day, I remember she started screaming in therapy and crying, and she was just kind of shutting down. And instead of 20 minutes, they gave her 3 minutes, and they told us that we could stop as soon as she felt uncomfortable. And so it took a couple weeks before she could start doing 20 minutes of therapy. Broken up, we would do like 3 to 5 minutes, and then now she's up to about 10. She can do the whole 20 in a day,
But
but
my eyes get really sore.
so it's been a long journey.
What does it feel like now, coming from a background of seeing a certain way that you were compensating for a long time and just trying to get by, and now you're starting to see differently after the therapy and coming to these discoveries like walls and bugs in flight, but
creepy things.
creepy things,
Moving cars.
moving cars.
Moving faces that I can see. And
Now she sees people in the halls and she's like, "Mom, do I know them?" Because she doesn't recognize their whole face. She only remembered seeing, she said that if she looked at somebody, she only saw their eyebrow, their nose, their mustache, their ear. So if they shaved their mustache and it wasn't there anymore, she didn't recognize the person.
yeah. And after I saw people for a long time, I'd know their whole face. Like, I can picture people now. Because, like, if I'd seen you 100 times, well, the first time I knew your hair, the second time I knew your eyebrow, I was piecing you together.
Kind of a little puzzle.
So, yeah, like a little puzzle. You were all just little pieces of puzzle that I had to put together because, or else, I don't know.
And what's interesting to me, like last year she did bowling. At the beginning of the year, she was bowling like at 18 to 24.
And I ended the year at like a 63.
And she ended the year at about a 63. And this year she started at about an 84.
No, like 74.
74. And then
I ended at like an 84. I ended at 83.
that was your average. Anyway.
Cool.
But so I asked her what she was doing different
Uh-huh.
from last year to this year. She's like, well, I see the ball now.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, what do you mean you see the ball? And she's like, well, last year when it left my hand, it disappeared. From the moment it left my hand to when it came back on the...
Well, it was a
the
blur.
floor.
I could still see it a little bit unless it was a fastball and I couldn't see it.
And so she's like, this year I can see a blur
Mm-hmm.
and there's a ball there, but not on the people that bowl fast. She's like, if the people that bowl fast, I lose the ball and it just disappears. But I thought, so last year she was bowling blind. She couldn't see the ball at all. I mean, either she aimed it perfect right, but she didn't know if she was aiming it right or not because once it released, it was gone. And now she sees there's a path with the ball. And so when she sees and notices little differences like that in everyday life, I know that it's because of vision therapy.
One big thing for me is, like I was saying, I can move my eyes. Now I can. When I was in, I remember in kindergarten first, people would say, just move your eyes. What do you mean? When you move your eyes, you go like this. And I completely thought that was how you did it. And they're like, no, just move your eyes. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But like by about 3rd grade, I could do that a little bit. Like not as much as I can now. And I could never roll my eyes before. Now I can do this.
Oh.
It's so cool.
So how's school now that the school's in on some of the vision therapy stuff, and now they're aware that you're getting a lot of help with this, has the school performance improved, and what's that like?
Oh my gosh, my conference was today, and my conference said I had 4 A's and 1 B plus, but I checked on Skyward and they printed that out. I have 4 A's and 1 A minus. And I have never had that good of grades before, and it was really, really happy for me. And the only one I have an A minus in isn't even in reading; it's in honors math. I've never had an A in reading before. It's like super happy for me, and I literally have a para, and she reads and writes for me, and so now the teachers aren't getting the sentence I can write out by myself. Because like I'd have so many thoughts, but I'd never write them down. Like for the huge sentence I had, I'd write a few words. I remember I used to go over to my friend's house, and she'd ask me to help her on her papers, and I'd say what I thought, like in this big old thing, but on my paper there was like 3 words, because that's how much I could force out of my hand. But now with her, like they're like this one little thing I'm filling, and like all the other kids.
It's really cool.
All my thoughts.
So in school, it's still a struggle.
Yeah.
Coming from the parent perspective, they took her off her IP. They put her on a 504. They're supposed to be giving her accommodations.
They got me a para and a laptop.
Yeah, I asked for a para, and she got one.
Oh, if you don't mind me asking, I'm not familiar with what that is.
A
What is
para
Walks
pro,
around.
like a one-on-one
it? Oh, okay.
teacher helper.
Oh, okay.
She
They're
doesn't help me with like
Okay.
comprehension or anything. It's just she reads and writes everything for me. So pretty much.
She's a reader and a scribe.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And so I'm like a normal kid because those are literally the only 2 places I have problems. And so it's like, so you took this that I'm hurting and you just took it away and put someone else there. So now that's gone. Just poof.
So, but getting help at school has always been
A little difficult.
very difficult.
Right.
And I try to be very
Helpful.
involved in school, and I email them when she has problems or when she notices new things. when she has breakthrough in her vision and understanding of what she was seeing and what she's seeing now. There's a few weeks where she was having blind spots and was really having a hard time with that. And so just letting the teachers know.
What did they call it? It wasn't blind spots. It was like shock something or other.
Because your eyes were going into shock.
Yeah, my eyes literally went into
With, like,
shock for like a
Vision overload.
Oh,
Yeah, they went into shock. And they were shutting down and doing all these weird stuff on me, and I was like, I used to shut myself in my room and just would not go out sometimes.
Yeah.
I was really scared.
And so I'm just really honest and open with her teachers. I encourage them to be honest and open with other students, just
Yeah.
because she is. I mean, it's a disability that nobody really sees unless you talk about it.
Yeah, it's not like I'm in a wheelchair or like or like I have a stick in my hand that people know I'm blind. I'm blind, but you can't see it. And I'm not blind. I have perfect vision, except that I don't. Very contradictory.
And so just I don't know, advocating, fighting for
right.
the education I know she's capable of processing mentally,
Yeah.
even if not visually.
Just wrapping it up, I think. What kind of messages do you have for other folks that are struggling with something like this? Like for me, I've become quite an advocate because my son, who had convergence insufficiency,
I have that too.
when he was younger, when he was about in preschool, and he wasn't advancing, and he got into kindergarten, he wasn't reading that well, and it was affecting his speech, and they thought it was a speech problem. But it wasn't. It was just his eyes, because he couldn't read. Everybody was reading. But after we got it, I was thinking, like, I've never heard of anything like this before. I've never heard of these vision issues that are out there. Yeah.
As a parent of a child who struggled more than she should have had to, I don't understand why there isn't earlier intervention if they show any signs of being defiant, being lazy, being a really good actor. Because if they help them preschool, kindergarten, and they didn't need the help, it's not going to make them any worse.
Yeah.
But if you don't give them the help, then, like she said, she just started shutting down. She started hating everything. She started being defiant within herself because she thought she was doing everything she could, and yet everybody was telling her she wasn't. And so it just made her want to give up.
I remember in kindergarten when I was sick, or when my mom was tired and she wanted us to stay home from school, I would like fight her so hard. I loved school. I always wanted to go. But by the time I was in about, like, especially this year, by the time I was in like,
This year it's been rough.
yeah, when I was in like 5th and 4th grade, I just sort of gave up. Like, they're still telling me that I'm not trying.
Yeah.
And that's all I do.
And so for parents, for me,
And so
I
what's
guess
the point of coming here?
if you have a child who isn't picking these things up at a young age, when they are sponges and are picking everything else up, there's probably an issue. And if there's not, it's kind of like a Band-Aid. It's not gonna, if it doesn't cure you, it's not gonna hurt you. But
I feel like
listening to your child, because only they know what they're seeing.
And we don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
Right.
I was convinced in my head everyone was saying exactly what I was saying, so why did they act like I was so weird? Well, I must just not be as smart as them, because to you think there's nothing different between you and the person sitting next to you, because when you guys are sitting like this side by side and you look the same, well, you must be seen the same.
And so one of the things she would tell me back in 2nd grade was things would disappear on her. And
I
was
remember
Mercedes,
that.
things don't disappear.
Big old blurs of clear white colors would just cover a section of the page where I was trying to read, and it wouldn't let me read it. It was covering it, and you kept telling me to read it, but
There wasn't anything
It was
there.
a block. It was a block.
So learning to listen to your children, pay attention, try to decipher what it is that they're explaining, they're seeing or not seeing. For parents and teachers and educators and anybody who's willing to listen, I guess just that, like,
Yeah.
don't give up. Don't take professional diagnosis on your children when you're the one that knows what they are like at home. You know how hard they try or they don't try. If it doesn't make sense, get an answer that does make sense. And knowing what the disability is, learning through vision therapy, different exercises, getting answers, and not pushing them to do things that they physically are not able to do.
Yeah.
Just being okay with that.